Hey guys, welcome to another video. U1, oh, huh, funny pen there. Let's fix that. U1A5, grade 12 advanced functions. Mr. Lupos once again. We are going to look at ways to factor a polynomial. So the question is going to be, what are the solutions for this? X cubed minus 5x minus 2x plus 24. So we're going to factor this and then find solutions. So solutions really mean what solutions are. What that is asking is, if you want to find a solution, is when does this guy here hit the x-axis? So it goes up, it goes down. This is x cubed. So an x cubed starts, it's a positive x cubed, so it's going to go down like this, back up and back down, or something like that. So if there are three intercepts here, that's our solution. Where's the graph hit? Here, here, and here. So we're going to see if there's a solution to this, and there will be. And then we're going to graph it or sketch it. And then what you can do is throw this into Desmos and figure out what it should look like. And then after that, we make sure that what we're doing is what we should be doing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cheat for a bit. Give me a second. Okay, through the miracle of something, technology, we find our answers here on Desmos. There's one answer, negative 2, 0. And then we're at 3, 0. And then we're at 4, 0. So I just jammed this equation into Desmos.com, and I found our answers. So that is where we should end up if we do this properly. So let's go back to here and figure out how to do this. So here we're going to call this f at x. So if you remember function notation from grade 11, and also earlier in this class, we're going to call this f at x is equal to all this stuff here. And I made a mistake. That should be squared. And what I want to do is factor this. So what you want to do is, first of all, find which factor can go in here. And one thing you're going to do is you're going to find out f at something, okay, we'll call this f at a, is equal to blah, 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 jam a in there, and then you get 0. If you get 0 as a value for whatever a is in here, so a cubed minus 5a squared minus 2 times a plus 24 is equal to 0, then you've found a factor of a. Okay, so that is going to get us one of our factors. And remember that our factor will then be x minus a. We got to change that sign, just like in the old days. If your 0 was, if your two zeros for a parabola were 2 and 5, you would say x minus 2 and x minus 5 were your factors. Or if you had factors of x minus 2, x minus 5, you would say, hey, my zeros are plus 2 and plus 5. Okay, so let's find out what this a is. And one thing that we're going to know is that if we have three factors here, or even if you have an infinite number of factors, if I have a number here, so x, I'm just going to make this up, x plus 6, x plus 2, and x plus 1, okay? If I'm going to do this and expand this, first I would FOIL, right? And after I FOIL, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff. And then after I FOIL, I'm going to take all my terms here, my x terms and my x squared, and my constant. Then I'm going to multiply each of these times this x plus 1 term. And the key is, what I'm getting at is, when I'm done this, I'm going to have a bunch of things, x cubes and x squareds and blah, 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 blah. And at the end, I'm going to have my constant value, okay? And that's going to be my whole number at the end. Not an x squared, not an x cubed, but just this constant at the end. And we can cheat a bit, because we know that this guy here, so once I have my three factors, so here I had 6, 2, and 1. Once I have my factors, this value here is going to be what 6 times 2 times 1 is, right? Because I'm multiplying, when I first FOIL, I end up with 6 times 2 is 12 here, right? And then after, when I multiply through, the only value that doesn't have an x associated with it is the one where I'm multiplying this 12 times this 1. So I end up with a 12. Now, in our case, up above, we don't have 12. We have 24. And we're working backwards. But what's going to help us here is we are going to know that one of our factors, or all of our factors are going to be factors. All of our solutions are going to be factors of 24. Because whatever I end up with, I'm going to have three brackets, right? And when I multiply this times this times this, I'm going to end up with plus 24. Now, I don't know the signs. I don't know if they're 24, if two of them are the same. But I do know that they're all factors of 24. So what you're going to do to find your initial factor is you're going to go through all of the factors of 24 and start subbing them in till you find one of the factors. So for example, I have f at 1. My factors of 24 are 1 and 24. They're also And it's plus or minus of each of these, right? Because that 1 times 24 is 24, but minus 1 times minus 24 is also 24. So those are two factors, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. 24's got a lot, 4 and 6. So what you want to do is just start trying, and I'd start with 1, sub that in, and see if I get 0. So let's try with 1 here. And if I work this out, that's 1, subtract 5, subtract 2, plus 24, and the answer, and so I know that this is not a factor. X minus 1 is not a factor. Again, remember, change that sign, so not a factor. And you work your way through this, and you try 1, and I'm not going to do this, but you try 1, you try -1. I start with the smaller numbers, 1, -1, then try 2 and -2, and once you get to -2, so let me just do this, f at -2, work your way through, you're going to get -2 all cubed. That's what that says, -2 to the power of 3. 5 times -2 squared minus 2 times -2 plus 24. And that's going to be minus 8. Minus 2 squared is 4 times the minus 5 is minus 20 plus 4 plus 24. So I add that up. I have these two terms. The first two terms are my negatives, minus 28 plus 28, and yep, 0. So then I know that f at minus 2 is 0. So x plus 2 is a factor. Okay, change that sign. Okay, so that's how we get the first bit. And I want to keep my function here. Actually, you know what? Let's just go to the next page. So I'm going to rewrite this. So I have f at x is equal to x cubed minus 5x x squared minus 2x plus 24. And I've just said that x plus 2 is a factor. Okay, so x plus 2 is a factor. So that means one of my solutions is when x is minus 2. So I'm going to divide now. I'll go synthetically. I'll divide f at x above by minus 2. So here we go. Okay. So again, x plus 2 is a factor. A solution then, change the sign, or a 0 is at minus 2, or a root is at minus 2. So when I do that, I bring this down here, multiply here. So this times -2 times 1 is -2. Add -5 and -7, or -2 to get -7. Okay, put a line here. People like to do this like that. -2 times -7, now I'm at 14. Add those together, I get 12. And then multiply this times this, and I get -24. And add those together, I get 0. So that is telling me that when I divide f at x above by x plus 2, I'm left with x squared minus 7x plus 12. So that's this guy, right? 1 minus 7, 12. So now I'm here, and now if I want to keep going, I can look at this, and I can do it a bunch of ways, right? I can throw this into the quadratic equation. I can go through it and find another f at a equal to 0. Or I can just say, look, simple trinomial, I want two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to -7. And I remember that if they multiply to a positive number and add to a negative, that they are both, in fact, negatives here. So when I work through it and I say 4 and 3 do add to 7, or -7, -4, -3 add to -7, and they multiply to 12. So there's my solution. So my solution is I have roots at -2, change the sign, plus 4, change that sign from here, and change the sign to 3. Okay. If you don't believe me, you go back and you expand this, and if you expand this, you'll end up with this, and then eventually f at x here. And also don't forget, when we went on Desmos, if I can find it, here we go. Those are my solutions: -2, -3, plus 3 and 4. Okay, that's that. Bigger ones, you might common factor. Another thing is you might common factor first. So if you have, for example, a bunch of terms and they don't end in a number, but they end in x. So if I have this, let's say, I don't know, I'm just making this up here. One thing you're going to look at here is you look and say, what's the first step? I don't have a constant at the end. What you'll do is your common factor first, and you end up with this, and then blah 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 blah. Or sorry, 6x squared, not blah blah blah, plus 2x plus 1. And now you're going to look for your a. You're going to sub in f at a. to see if you can get that to be 0. You want the factors of 1 or whatever this is going to be here. Okay, so you might common factor first, and that's about it. Okay, and then move on from there. So synthetic division.